Bombshell update for you. Protesters are now being arrested at these Tesla dealership locations. This comes as Elon Musk has confirmed that it's ActBlue behind all of this. Take a look. So those protesters were arrested and removed. You guys know I've been showing you videos that were in Oregon and in other states where people have been setting Tesla superchargers on fire and also protesting inside of these Tesla dealership locations. Here's what Elon Musk put up early this morning. An investigation has found 5 ActBlue funded groups responsible for Tesla's protest: Troublemakers, Disruption Project, Rise and Resist, Invisible Project, and Democratic Socialists of America. ActBlue funders, including George Soros, Reid Hoffman, Herbert Sandler, Patricia Bondman, and Lee Hunt Hendricks. ActBlue is currently under investigation for allowing foreign and illegal donations and criminal violation of campaign finance regulations. This week, 7 ActBlue senior officials resigned, including the Associate General Counsel. If you know anything about this, please post in replies. Thanks, Elon. Now here's Congressman Steele out of Wisconsin. He heads up the actual committee that is investigating ActBlue. Here's what he had to say yesterday.
Yeah, you're the chairman of the Committee on House Administration. You've been leading an investigation into ActBlue, which is the Democrats' kind of dark money platform, and it's a lot of shady things happening with that. The New York Times out with a new piece saying that ActBlue has plunged into turmoil. At least 7 senior officials resigning late last month. Departures come as the group is under investigation by yourself and other congressional Republicans. What is happening at ActBlue as you guys begin to look into this fundraising platform?
When I began my investigation in ActBlue, I could not believe what I was finding: an absolute lack of financial controls that should be in place at almost any place that is operating with your money. As we all know, if you go online and try to buy something, you have to enter that 3-digit code on the back of your credit card, a CVV number. ActBlue wasn't even requiring that. They weren't automatically rejecting donations that were made from prepaid cards from risky foreign countries. And so we began this investigation to figure out what exactly is going on in ActBlue. We've issued subpoenas, we've asked questions of ActBlue, and we just now have the New York Times reporting that senior leaders are jumping off the ship of ActBlue. Yeah. Our investigation is going to continue, and now we have friends that we can work with in the United States Department of Treasury instead of being stiff-armed as we were during the Biden administration.
So this is not looking good for Democrats because it's already enough. They're all over the place. They have no unified message. They got ghetto people speaking on their behalf and trying to use civil rights music to protest. Okay, that's where they are. But then you throw in this whole ActBlue corruption scheme, which we know it's always been a corruption. It's just now that it's coming full circle and being exposed. Now, let's not forget that time when Elizabeth Warren was using ActBlue to raise funds, all in the name of Los Angeles wildfire victims, okay? They're that scammy. And that's why if you actually do a search on X, you could find that there's over 100 times that Elizabeth Warren used ActBlue to raise funds. Now, Charlie Kirk put this post up a couple of days ago where he wrote, the New York Times reports ActBlue is in turmoil. Mysteriously, 7 top executives have all left in the past 3 weeks, several of whom have all been there more than a decade. None of them will explain on the record why they left. And here's where your attention should be focused. The last remaining lawyer at ActBlue's general counsel's office has been locked out of his email and put on leave after sending internal messages that, quote, "We have whistleblower policies for a reason," end quote. Well, why is this such a big deal? Because if the Department of Justice actually does their job and investigates ActBlue and brings them up on charges, we're talking terrorism at this point, domestically. You cannot be funding people to go into Tesla dealerships, break the windows, set the superchargers on fire, and disrupt citizens. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. Now, I might be wrong on the terminology on what those charges could be, but as I state all of that out loud, you know there's something off about this. Corruption sky high here, and I just hope Pam Bondi, if she wants to redeem herself, she should be all over this ASAP. However, the other side to this entire argument has nothing to do with what I just went over. has everything to do with President Trump and that he's the criminal. And the person who clearly has been speaking on behalf of Democrats lately, Jasmine Ghetto Crockett, she says just that this morning on MSDNC. Take a look.
City law enforcement, local law enforcement, they are always going after crime. And they don't say, oh, you committed a murder? Oh, but you're an immigrant? Well, let me let you go, right? So they are always focused on crime. They continue to say things like the illegals and that they broke the law coming in. But what they're not telling the American people is that it is a civil violation. It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not a crime, which is why they're so frustrated, because they really want our local law enforcement to go out and round up people when they could be looking out for the murderers and the sexual abusers as well as the robbers. They want them to go and round people up on civil accusations. And so that's why I wanted to point out, don't give me this fake outrage about criminals roaming our streets when you guys stand 10 toes down for the biggest criminal that we have ever seen go into the White House.
So this is who speaks for the Democratic Party now, right? She's not making any logical arguments here. Why don't she focus on what's happening with ActBlue? Why doesn't she focus on actually what voters want and stop being so obsessed with President Trump? It's fascinating, really, to cover all this. That bleeds over to Elon Musk. You got people in her base setting superchargers on fire. I think that sums up where the party is at right now. Now, speaking of Elon Musk, MSDNC took it upon themselves to make a part of their show trashing SpaceX and the Starship that conducted a test flight the other day where the booster was caught, which is a huge accomplishment, but the Starship itself blew up in space. Here's what they had to say about it.
Well, Alphabet may be defying gravity, but you know who isn't? Elon Musk. On Thursday, a SpaceX Starship rocket exploded just minutes into its test flight. The FAA temporarily stopped air traffic around Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, and Orlando. It is the second consecutive Starship test flight from Elon Musk's company to end with destruction.
All I could think about was, oh, I can't sing.
No, please don't. That's good. That's good. We got it. We understand how painful that was for y'all out there. Just as watching these things blow up.
This is where you tell us that you starred as Glinda in your
you better
production of Wicked.
No. But I've done a number of shows. But anyway.
Why did they let him put this rocket up in the air after they were still investigating the last explosion?
Well, see, this is the thing. And that's probably why it exploded. But the thing to keep in mind is, my suggestion for Elon, his response to all of this was rockets are hard. And Mr. Musk, if they're so hard, why don't you go back to your day job and work that out? And leave those of us who do government to do government, because you can't do both. And clearly you're failing right now at both.
Guys, this is just an example of what's happening to mainstream media. They have become the fringe. They are on the extreme, okay, with a lot of these subjects, okay? They can't even say two things are true at one time, which is Elon Musk is clearly the most successful entrepreneur in history, and he's in America, and he's created companies that have benefited America in such a huge way. And at the same time, you just disagree with him politically. Secondly, a test rocket by default, according to space exploration, should blow up because that's the only way you're going to learn how to prevent it from blowing up. But hey, what do I know, right? And this leads me to the third thing. Why are they so focused on this? Because they want to distract their viewers from the real truth of what's been happening. See, they believe Elon Musk should not be in Washington, D.C. because he doesn't know what he's doing. No, the truth is he does know what he's doing, and he's exposing the fact that the people in the government don't know what they're doing because they've been scamming American taxpayers to fund their pet projects. And what is one of those pet projects? Here's an example of that.
We've exposed hundreds of millions of dollars of NIH spending, even spending by the NSF and the U.S. Department of Agriculture on animal experiments in colleges and universities across the country that are giving lab animals, hormone therapies, invasive surgeries to create trans-feminine, trans-masculine mice and rats, giving puberty blockers to baby animals to mimic trans kids, and then electroshocking them. In some cases, they're even giving these transgender animals sex party drugs and overdosing them to see what happens.
Now, I want you to truly think about what he just said. Taxpayer money is funding these projects to inject puberty blockers, sex party drugs, to see what happens to them. And we're not talking thousands of dollars, millions, billions in some cases. But that's what Democrats don't want you to focus on. They think that's okay. They think what's wrong is Elon Musk exposing that.
There are some fact checkers out there who say that this wasn't specifically an experiment on making mice trans. Did that specifically happen, or what's your take on it?
Not only was President Trump right about the transgender animal experiments, but the problem was way worse than he explained. He focused on the $8 million in these 7 grants that Doge cut the next morning, but actually there's over 22 active grants from NIH for funding specifically the creation of transgender animals in these laboratories. And if you look at the titles of the grants, the grant descriptions, and the titles of the taxpayer-funded papers that are coming out of these laboratories, they specifically state we are trying to create transgender mouse models, trans-feminine, trans-masculine mouse models to mimic transgender adults and children.
These people are sick, okay? Just sick. I mean, who is actually waking up in the morning looking forward to do this to animals? I mean, it just breaks my heart. I mean, this is where the tax money that people work so hard for to turn around and pay the federal government, this is what it's being used for. And no wonder Democrats are so outraged and they're trying so hard to defend this. And it just wasn't a while ago, Van Jones on CNN was literally trying to make the same argument in defending this.
You ask Americans, should we eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse from the government? You'll get a lot of response for that. If you start defining waste, fraud, and abuse as things that they value and workers that are essential, they're going to have a much different view. So the initial blush of Musk with his chainsaw may have had some resonance. The fact that he's cutting down stuff indiscriminately, less so.
Well, it's not all indiscriminate. I mean, we don't really need the transgender mice, do we? I mean,
that's not even real.
It is real. I'm sorry, man. It's real.
It's not. No, listen.
Is it real or not?
Hey, hold on a second.
Did we have to say it was real or not?
No, hold on.
It's real.
I mean, Musk was a shield.
How about the
It's a real thing.
No,
so look, my point is,
listen. What they weren't talking about trans.
Don't defend the mice.
No. Listen. You don't want to talk about it? We don't talk about it. But it wasn't transgender. It was a different term that was misinterpreted as transgender. They were actually doing basic medical experiments on mice to figure out.
Don't spoil a good troll.
It's just not true.
Jennings is having a good.
I mean, who actually tries to defend that and spin it and say, no, they got the language wrong. Guys, they're injecting puberty blockers into mice, sex party drugs. They're abusing animals. I don't give a damn what you call it. The bottom line is taxpayer money is funding this evilness. And they're laughing and think it's a joke. I mean, I got to stop because I'm going to get triggered, literally. But guys, this is what's wrong with the party. And that's why they're so focused on Elon Musk and trying to distract everybody and make him out to be the bad guy.
So I have to ask you a little bit of background. You called Elon Musk a dick on Twitter.
I did.
And I think that resonates with a lot of people because, like, Elon Musk is a dick.
He is a dick.
So can you tell me a little bit about that day or what went into that, or if it was a moment of frustration? 'Cause I know you got some blowback, which I think is dumb. But,
I mean, if you never piss anybody off, you're probably not trying hard enough.
That was, I love you.
Then look at this.
Yes.
I mean, I think that now is a time when we should be troublemakers and not pacifists.
Now, that's just terrible advice, okay? I'm not in the business of giving it to the Democratic Party, but I'm going to tell you this right now. Them fighting back, or their version of fighting back, is blowing up in their face. Everybody knows that. They're becoming the laughingstock of politics at this point. Now, if there is a piece of advice that they could follow, it was actually shared on Fox News, and it comes in the form of a rule that they should follow. Listen to this.
Joe said the Democrats have lost their minds. I can't tell if that's a figure of speech or he actually thinks they've lost their minds. They might have.
It may be literal at this point. There should be a rule for Democrats going forward. 3 words. No more singing.
No more singing.
Right? This ain't 1968 anymore. And the problem is, and Dan would probably agree with this, they've seeded the common sense block of voters. And that is a massive amount of voters. That's not just Republicans, independents. That could be a lot of blue dog Democrats as well. And when we hear about a mental health crisis in this country, just watch those videos. And that is Exhibit A here. And the question is, Who are Democrats trying to appeal to when we see the Street Fighter video or 23 lawmakers all at once saying the same thing at the same time, trying to be authentic while sounding like robots? They more sound like sophomores with a TikTok account at this point. So I think the problem is there is no leader at this point, Jesse. Hakeem Jeffries clearly is not Nancy Pelosi, to your point earlier, where he says during the joint session of Congress, Donald Trump's speech, please do not act up. Show some decorum, and they all say, screw you, we're going to go ahead and do what we want to do anyway.
So their social media campaigns have failed. Their leadership has failed. This whole idea that they're unified, the truth of that has failed. And so what's left? What's left is for them to resort back to the same old talking points and habits that have failed them. Meaning what? Tax cuts for billionaires is what Republicans are pushing for. That's their message right now on top of everything else. And I got some receipts to show you. Here is Elizabeth Warren saying just that.
You ever wonder why Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos are cozying up to Donald Trump? Well, they're expecting it to pay off in major tax handouts. Tax handouts that only the ultra-rich and big corporations can cash in on. I'm serious. This year, Republicans want to spend $5 trillion on tax giveaways for rich people. And how do they want to pay for it? They want to cut programs that help Americans pay for groceries and health care. That's not right. It's time for the wealthiest and most powerful people in this country to stop asking for handouts and start paying their fair share.
What's so fascinating, it's billionaires who fund politics to begin with. I mean, most of these people would not be in Congress today if it wasn't for billionaires. That's what I find funny on both sides of the aisle, especially Democrats. We know this. Secondly, her argument would have some level of credibility if the message was different. Instead of saying Democrats are bad and they need to pay their fair share, why are you just not coming out and saying, hey, listen, we don't want any tax cuts for billionaires, but Donald Trump, can you please keep the tax cuts for the working class? At least she'd have a little credibility on what she's saying instead of trying to be politically divisive. Now, here's AOC doing the same thing.
And I want you to understand, I want everyone to understand that tax cuts cost money. We have to pay for them. So every dollar that you spend in federal taxes is going to pay for some rich person's G-Wagon, and it's also going to cut in 8-year-old kids with autism's ability to access Medicaid. That's what they are putting on the table. That's what they're trying to make worse. And frankly, I don't care what party you are, we cannot stand for this.
So again, guys, that argument is not going to work. American people will see right through that. Democratic Party, they have no credibility, especially when they continue to use just this hyperbolic, fear-based language. It doesn't come off as authentic, okay? Now, this brings me to the question that I'd love for you to answer in regards to this video today. What's your take on ActBlue? Do you believe Pam Bondi will do the right thing and actually bring people up on charges and follow this through to the end? I'm really interested to hear what your response would be about that. All you have to do is put it in the comment section below. Now, if you're paying attention in this video, then you know the one rule that Democrats need to follow, and that is they need to stop singing at their protests. Well, there's a video we did on that yesterday when that's what they tried to do, and it blew up in their face. If you guys missed out on that video and other stories from yesterday, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.